Hey everybody. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about summarizing, paraphrasing, and quoting. So as you look through the resources that I have given you to read this week, you'll see that there's a section on summaries, paraphrasing, there's signal phrases, and there are also summary writing tips. So there's a lot of information here. What I want to do right now is just kind of condense and explain some of it. I would still like you to read and refer to these articles, but I just want to give you like a general idea of what exactly these things mean. Sometimes when we talk about concepts in class, they can feel abstracted from what you're actually going to be doing. So I just want to make it clear why we need to do this in the first place. So when you go out in the world and find a source, as you have just done, when you are going to incorporate it into your writing, there's really only three ways to get a source into your writing. You can summarize it in your paper, you can paraphrase it in your paper, or you can quote it in your paper. In the past, you may have done something like your teachers ask you, hey, write a paper with resources, and you go out and you read a bunch of stuff and you type up everything you learned, and at the bottom you create a reference page of those sources. That's actually not a great way of doing things. It's a form of plagiarism. When you put a source into your paper, into your reference page, that indicates that you've used it somewhere in your paper. So you need to keep a little bit better track of it. The way that you do that is through summary, paraphrase, and quotation. Those are the three main ways that you can get your sources into the actual body of your paper, instead of just like getting inspiration from a whole bunch of different sources and then writing up whatever. So to really write in a way that's ethical, you need to kind of give credit as it's due as you're writing your paper. So these are the ways that you do that. You can take the entire source or a large portion of the entire source and summarize it. You can take a sentence or a paragraph from the source and include that straight into your paper. You can take an idea or a sentence or a paragraph or a couple paragraphs from your source and paraphrase them. In all of these instances, you need to indicate that you have been taking this idea, this piece of writing from an original source. So there are a couple different ways of doing this. When you summarize, you are going to take all of the ideas, and you can see that if you go into this writing summaries. You're going to take all of the ideas, all of the major ideas, and condense them into a shorter version. When you do a summary, you really want to aim for about 10% of the original. You can see right here, they're much shorter than the original material. There's no point in summarizing as long as the original material is, because then the reader would just go and read it themselves. Should be no more than 10% to 15% the length of the original. When you summarize, the way that you let the reader know that you're about to summarize is you start with a sentence that includes rhetorical information, like the article's title, the author, the genre, the publication year, information about the actual source itself. So your first sentence should be that. It should start with rhetorical information, and it should end with the main idea. So your first sentence is rhetorical information about the article plus the main idea. Then the body of your summary is going to be the major ideas. Do not quote in a summary. Do not include minor details like names, places, specific information. You're generalizing what the whole long article had to say. You're not getting into the specifics. And then you conclude your summary with a conclusion that's similar to the conclusion of the summary. So try and think how they concluded, maybe restate the main idea and wrap it up. Throughout, you're going to want to include attributive tags. They're sometimes they're called signal phrases. So we'll go back to that article if it pulls up. And here we go. These signal phrases are just ways to incorporate the idea that this is coming from somebody else. It introduces the quote that's coming, and it indicates a stance towards the material. So this is something that you use more in quotations and paraphrases. These examples here are a little more opinionated, but you can also use signal phrases as a form of attributive tag when you're writing your summary. And an attributive tag is something like according to, or the author explains, the author suggests, finally, the author concludes. In the article, the author says, all of these are ways of letting the reader know that you are explaining what somebody else thinks. So you use those basically in every sentence of the summary. Switch them up, make them different, but they use them in pretty much every sentence to get people to understand that these are not your thoughts, they're the original authors. So once you've kind of come up with the summary of what's going on, the major details, you can go back to your sentences and add in attributive tags for every single one. So something along the lines of, according to the author, the article then states, the study shows. These are ways that you can incorporate attributive tags to let people know that you're summarizing. When you are quoting and paraphrasing, you can use these more opinionated signal phrases that they include here, the sample signal verbs, to also set your quote or your paraphrase up. When you quote material, that's the thing that you're the most familiar with, I'm sure. When you quote material, that's when you take it, cut and paste it directly from the source, put quotation marks around it, and end with a citation. When you paraphrase, you take that exact same quote or idea or paragraph and you put it in your own words entirely, new sentence structure, new words, you explain it in your own wording. You don't use quotation marks, and then you end with a citation. All of these are different ways of incorporating sources into your paper. I'm going to show you in another video a practical demonstration of how I would do this.